All right, everyone, guess what? It's time for another video, as you can probably tell because you're watching this right now. And today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, get that fixed there a bit. We're going to take a look at a certain individual, a certain wrestler that I'm a fan of, and maybe you guys will be a fan of too. I'm talking about the total package Lex Luger. That's right, today it is a video on Lex Luger, the narcissist, the man made in the USA, the total package. He's had many names, but today we're going to look at Lex. And from what I saw, and going back, I believe this is the first magazine cover I saw him on for this that I own, and that's October 86 of Inside Wrestling. The NWA Championship sinks to a new low. Ric Flair needs 10 thugs to defeat Lex Luger. Lex Luger at the time, not Luger, Luger. So I don't know why it went from Luger to Luger. I really don't know if it was just a misprint that kept going or if Lex Luger really was Lex Luger at first. I don't really know. But he did end up becoming Lex Luger. And in this Inside Wrestling May 87, we get Barry Windham's warning to Lex Luger, keep away from the Four Horsemen. How ironic is that, right? Because as time would tell, Barry Windham would be the one going into that very group as well. Wrestling 87, Summer 87, we get an interview with Lex Luger, a sizzling interview with wrestling's hottest young star. Of course, Lex Luger wrestling in Florida for the beginning of his career, along with Barry Windham, who was there. Ended up, of course, going to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, which, of course, is the NWA. When he went there, he became United States Heavyweight Champion. Here it is, the Wrestler, November 87, the night that shook wrestling. Lex Luger wins the U.S. title from Nikita Koloff. And, of course, we see Steve Williams winning the UWF belt from Big Bubba Rogers there as well. Inside Wrestling, December 87. Rhodes challenges Luger. Will Dusty's U.S. title hopes split the superpowers? Look at that, bloody Dusty Rhodes on the cover. It's always enjoyable to see for just the artwork of it all, right? I mean, Dusty Rhodes bleeding on a magazine cover, from what I understand, that sold many magazines in the 70s and early 80s. Wrestling 87, Winter 87, this, of course, a favorite of mine. I've said it before, I'll say it again. That's an awesome-looking cover. There we see Lex with the U.S. title with the rest of the Four Horsemen. Wrestling Superstars, Winter 87, we get a Superstar Dream match with Lex Luger versus Randy Savage. That dream match, of course, did take place many years later in World Championship Wrestling. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, April 88. This is Lex's first magazine cover for PWI, it looks like. At least it was from what I saw. Lex Appeal, the complete package unwrapped. So there's Lex there. Wearing the black trunks. He wore the black trunks a lot as a villain with the Four Horsemen. And here we have Sports Review Wrestling, April 88. Lex Luger, the future of wrestling, right there at the top with the United States Heavyweight Championship. Well, Lex Luger would go on to leave the Four Horsemen, form a tag team with Barry Windham, and win the tag team titles. And we're going to see that in the next few issues here of these magazines. We got Sports Review Wrestling, June 88. We got Lex Luger with pressing Tully Blanchard from the Horsemen. Memo to Lex Luger, don't waste your time on Blanchard. Get Ric Flair. Wrestling 88, Summer 88. Lex Luger or Sting, you decide who should win the future World Champion trophy. Sting and Lex Luger, of course, kind of joined at the hips most of their career. Really good friends. Best of friends, actually. And there was always this thing, who's going to be world champion first? Is it Luger? Is it Sting? Luger had many more shots at the title, but of course it was Sting who was the first one to win the world title. August 88 of The Wrestler. We get an in-depth analysis of the World Tag Title power shift, Barry Windham and Lex Luger, was their title reign sabotaged by a Horseman Windham plot. So as we all know the story there, Barry Windham, Lex Luger tagging up on WCW Saturday Night, or NWA Saturday Night, whatever it was called at the time. And Barry Windham turned on Lex Luger. J.J. Dillon kept saying, Lex isn't there for you. He's not there for you. Well, no, he's not there for you. Lex is bleeding on the ground. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard rammed his head into the ring post, right? Once Lex got up, Barry ended up slapping Lex for a tag, body slamming him into the ring, picking him up and giving him a Texas-style lariat clothesline, and walked away with J.J. Dillon, putting up the four fingers as Arn Anderson pinned Lex Luger to become World Tag Team Champions with Tully Blanchard for a second time. Sports Review Wrestling, August 88. Lex Luger and Sting, we won it all for Magnum TA. So with Barry Windham out, Sting took Windham's place in the Crockett Cup 88, and Sting and Lex Luger become the Crockett Cup champions in 1988. PWI September 88. We got Sting and Luger there for the Supercards with the Crockett Cup as well. And with Inside Wrestling September 88, again, the Crockett Cup photos. There's Sting and Lex again on the cover, making all three of those magazines talking about the Crockett Cup and their big win. That was the last Crockett Cup that they would have for many, many years until Billy Corgan and his NWA would bring it back a few years ago. The Wrestler, November 88. The conspiracy that cost Lex Luger the NWA belt, that being, of course, at the Great American Bash in Baltimore, where Lex, I believe the storyline was he had a cut on his head, and they stopped the match saying the bleeding was too much, even though Ric Flair bleeds in every match all the time. It was such a dusty finish. It was just ridiculous. February 89 for PWI, Lex Explosion. I'll take Flair's title and leave him for dead, says the Total Package, Lex Luger. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, again, March 89. This is for the year-end awards. Lex makes the cover there. Let's see. He probably must have won an award for that to be on the cover. He got, Feud of the Year. Ric Flair and Lex Luger was Feud of the Year. That was why. Sports Review Wrestling, April 89. Starrcade 88 True Grit. Exclusive coverage of all the action and drama. Lex Luger, of course, torture-racking Ric Flair. Lex did not win the world title belt that night, unfortunately, but he'd go on at the next pay-per-view to take the United States heavyweight title from his former partner, Barry Windham. And June 89, a Sports Review Wrestling shows that Chi-Town Rumble makes NWA history. Lex Luger wins U.S. title. Sports Review Wrestling, August 89. Lex Luger and Sting, will their friendly rivalry lead to an all-out war? Always hyping a chance of a Sting-Luger feud, and that did actually happen in 1989 when Lex Luger turned his back on the fans and went after Ric Flair, who was a babyface at the time, and for that world title. Sting, of course, being Flair's friend at the time, was there to help Ric Flair out. October 89 for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Muscle for Muscle. Who's more awesome, Luger or Hogan? Well, just looking at that photo, I'd say Lex has a better definition to his body. Hogan is big, but Hogan's kind of bulky. Lex actually has like definition in it, in his arms and such. So I think overall Lex probably had the better body. But I think Hogan was definitely heavier. Hogan was like 303 pounds. Or like, what, 303, I think? Yeah, 303 pounds. That's what he was. October 89, Wrestling Fury. We get Lex Luger on the cover there with the United States Heavyweight Championship. And PWI, December 89, The Young and the Restless. The NWA's future is in their hands. We see Sting, The Great Muta, Sid Vicious, and Lex Luger, who's sitting in a chair relaxing. It's now time to hit 1990. It's a new era of wrestling, the 90s, and Lex Luger was going to be seen as the man of the 90s. Was he going to finally win the world title? We will see coming up. We have February 90 for PWI. Luger's holiday gift for Flair has the total package wrapped up the NWA title. The Wrestler, February 90. Can Sting keep Luger from the NWA belt? I want Flair now over my dead body. PWI, April 90. Ric Flair wins Wrestler of the Decade, but why Lex Luger couldn't ruin Ric Flair's greatest day? Luger destroyed the trophy that Ric Flair had received from Bill Apter and everyone from Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and Luger said, screw that, I'm destroying that trophy. Summer 1990, wrestling superstars, we have a superstar dream match, Hulk Hogan versus Lex Luger. Again, that dream match would come true on the second episode of WCW Monday Nitro in September 1995, as well as the big title match in August of 97. I think it was August 3rd, when Lex Luger defeated Hollywood Hogan to win the WCW Championship, only holding it for 6 days before losing it back to Hogan, but he did take the belt from Hollywood and the NWO at that time. July 1990, PWI. The maturing of Lex Luger, the total package, becomes the people's choice. The Wrestler, July 1990. My 10 challenges to Ric Flair by Lex Luger. So, Luger still after Flair. It's 1990 now. Luger is the baby face. Flair is the heel because Flair and the Horsemen attack Sting. So now we get Lex Luger, who's after Flair again. Inside Wrestling, August 1990, the experts agree Lex Luger has made Ric Flair a broken man. September 1990 of Inside Wrestling. Fighting Fire with Fire, the awesome foursome committed to destroying the Horsemen, that being Lex Luger, Sting, and Rick and Scott Steiner. The Wrestler, November 1990. The Luger-Sting rivalry ready to explode again. That title belt should be around my waist, says Luger, and Sting says, Lex is my friend, he'll watch out for me. Well, I guess at the time Lex was his friend, but as a year from now would see, it would be a much different story. January 91 for PWI, which is better, the WWF or the NWA? We see the Ultimate Warrior, the Texas Tornado, and Hulk Hogan for the WWF, and we see Sting, Lex Luger, and Ric Flair for the NWA. Sports Review Wrestling, January 1991. Starrcade Battle of the Belts. Sting and Luger demand it. The fans demand it, but what, right? But what? I guess the whole point was, well, are we going to see title for title? No, that did not happen. March 91 for 1990, a year in review for PWI. We get Lex Luger on the cover again. I don't know if, did Luger win anything? He did. Oh, he got Feud of the Year again with Ric Flair. So Lex seems to do that rather well. Get the Feud of the Year with Flair. Wrestling Fury, April 91. We see Lex Luger on the cover here saying he's a mystery man, whatever that means. Probably meaning if he's heel or face, we don't really know. Sports Review Wrestling, July 91. Lex Luger, his only good future is a bad future, meaning is the total package going to go to the dark side again? Is he going to become a villain, a bad guy? We'll find out as time goes on, and we did find out. The Wrestler, November 1991. The total package unraveled. Lex Luger wins the WCW title, but loses his fans in the process. He defeated Barry Windham for the vacant championship at the Great American Bash 91. The reason why Lex is not showing that title belt off right there is because that's not the WCW championship belt. That is Dusty Rhodes' PWF Florida title from the organization he ran when he left the NWA before going to the WWF. He had a company in Florida. He had a championship belt made for it. They used that for that night because Ric Flair had the big gold belt and didn't give it back to WCW. Same with right here. Lex Luger on the cover of the WCW magazine, December 1991. He's got that same title, not showing off the belt. See, he's got it up high on his shoulder because that's not the WCW title. All they did was take a nameplate and kind of screw it in over the PWF name, the logo, to make it look like WCW that night. But when Lex did get a WCW title worth showing, he did proudly show it off, like here, winter 1991, Sting and Lex Luger ready for all-out war. So there we see Lex with the new WCW World title belt. Of course, that belt was held by Lex Luger, Sting, Big Van Vader, Ron Simmons, and the Nature Boy Ric Flair before going back to the big gold belt. Inside Wrestling, February 1992, a reign of pain. Lex Luger, the agony of a world champion. The WCW magazine, March 1992, Lex Luger, Wrestler of the Year for World Championship Wrestling. Sports Review Wrestling, March 92, a year in pictures, and we see Lex there with the belt. Now, you can kind of, I don't know if you can see that. I'll go sideways maybe. You might be able to see it better. Can you see the belt? Look at that. That's not, see what I mean? That's not the WCW title belt. That's a belt that they, like I said, Dusty Rhodes had that title and they had to alter it for that night. And I mean, I really don't know what they could have done. I guess that was the proper thing to do. They had to have a title belt there that night. They had to have a new champion. So I guess that's the best thing they could do. But that's really bad to show a shot of it like that because everyone knows now that's not the belt. April 92 for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, we get Outlook for Sting, bright and sunny. Forecast for Lex Luger, rain ending. WCW Magazine, April 92, we get Super Brawl 2, an in-depth preview of the Luger Sting main event. So, Super Brawl 2, we finally got it. Sting versus Lex Luger for the WCW World Championship, held on a leap year. It was February 29th, 1992, where Sting defeated the Total Package Lex Luger to win the WCW title, and that was the last we would see of Lex Luger in a wrestling ring for quite some time. He would leave WCW while he was still under contract with them, sign with the WBF with Vince McMahon, and to be a bodybuilder. Only problem is, Lex shows up on WrestleMania 8, just less than, like, I think, less than a month? Or a little over a month. February 29th was Super Brawl. I think WrestleMania 8 was like April 5th, maybe. So, 5 weeks maybe there? 6 weeks, maybe, I don't know. But anyways, Lex shows up on a WWF pay-per-view, WrestleMania 8, talking about the WBF, and Lex, of course, ended up getting in that motorcycle accident, almost losing his arm, has that steel plate, that steel rod in his arm. So Lex is out of the wrestling for all of 1992. There's nothing. Lex Luger is gone. We don't hear of Lex Luger until the Royal Rumble of 1993. Spring 93, a Wrestling 93 Rule Breaker, we get Bobby Heenan and Narcissist Lex Luger, the total package of brain and brawn. That's right. The total package is no more. He is now the Narcissist, and he's in the World Wrestling Federation. PWI, May 1993, a WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan? Yes, that's right. Who needs him? Because you have Lex Luger on that show, as well as Giant Gonzalez, apparently. I guess that was needed too, but yes, Lex Luger was at WrestleMania 9, and he defeated Mr. Perfect in his first WrestleMania match. July 93 of The Wrestler, Lex Luger, I only have eyes for me. That's right, he is the Narcissist, ladies and gentlemen. But that would change as time goes on. Wrestling Fury, August 93. Louisville Lightning, Jarrett takes on Luger. That's right, the Narcissist Lex Luger took a travel down to, Tennessee and wrestled for the USWA, the Memphis promotion that Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett and them were running. Luger, a part of the WWF, wrestled for the USWA that night against Jeff Jarrett. September 1993, WWF Magazine. Lex Luger showing his call to action. What does that mean? I'll tell you what that means. Hulk Hogan was a failure. He couldn't defeat Yokozuna again. He got lucky at WrestleMania 9, right? Let's be honest. He got lucky. Couldn't beat Yoko at King of the Ring. Yokozuna got the best of Hogan that day, and they needed an American hero to conquer Yokozuna. Mr. Fuji put out the challenge, the Stars and Stripes Challenge, July 4th, 1993, to see who would body slam Yokozuna. And at the last minute, the last moment, when everything seemed bleak and no one was sure what was going to happen, a helicopter came down, and the total package, the narcissist Lex Luger, got off that helicopter, went to the ring, hit Yoko with his elbow, stunned him, and scoop slammed him in the ring, ripping off the American shirt, the fans going nuts. Now, Bobby Heenan would say, for record, it wasn't a body slam, it was a hip toss. But no, it was a body slam, folks. Nice try there, Weasel. Wrestle America, October 93. Luger SummerSlams his way into America's heart. Lexcellent. So much puns there. I love it. The WWF Magazine, November 1993. Lex Luger, after his victory at SummerSlam, where to now? That's right. Lex Luger celebrating with the Steiners, with Tatanka, with Randy Macho Man Savage at the end of his match, defeating Yokozuna by countout. That's right, by countout. And as stated, the stipulation was in the contract. Lex would only get one title shot, and he blew it. He beat Yoko by countout. He did not do it by pinfall or submission. Therefore, Lex Luger did not win the WWF World title. That just killed Lex Luger's, I wouldn't say popularity, more so us fans, even me at the time, I was 12 years old. I just felt not defeated, but depleted. I felt like the air was sucked out of me. Like, great, now what? Like, what's the point? Lex Luger wins the match, but not the title. Like, the whole point was him to win the title. Just horrible. That was just really bad on Vince's part. November 93 of The Wrestler. It's not over yet in a possible Bret Hart versus Lex Luger feud. These are now the new magazines they brought out, the smaller ones that suck dick. Look at that. Look at the size difference. That's horrible, but what are you going to do, right? December 93 of The Wrestler. Intimate facts revealed. Everything you always wanted to know about Lex. Inside Wrestling, December 1993. The next Hulk Hogan, why Lex Luger will succeed where Warrior and Savage failed. That's not really too true now, is it? At least not in the WWF. And of course, the WWF put out a wrestling spotlight on Lex Luger, his trials and triumphs here. And with that, I believe I do have the poster. I got a poster here of Lex, so it's in there. I mean, I could take it out and put it up on the wall or do something with it, but why bother, right? All right, we now go into 1994. 1994, will Lex Luger finally get the WWF Championship? Well, to do so, he'll have to go through the Royal Rumble. But he did end up doing that, and he was victorious. And that could have helped him here because in the March 94 and 1993 year in wrestling, Lex did get some popularity back because he got Comeback of the Year, and he also got Most Popular Wrestler of the Year. So two big, what do you want to call it? Well, I just got brain fart there. Two big awards. There they are. Two big awards for Lex Luger for 1993. April 1994, WWF Magazine, WrestleMania, The Perfect 10 in New York City. And there it is. Bret Hart and Lex Luger were both victorious at the Royal Rumble. Who would wrestle Yokozuna? Well, PWI, May 1994, Yokozuna versus Lex Luger, WrestleMania, the match that would make 10 a 10. So they're hyping up here. Everyone seems to think Lex is going to get the shot at Yoko and win the title. Very well. That seems like an obvious choice, but Bret Hart also won the Rumble, and Bret Hart's popularity is just as good as Lex, maybe even better, dare I say, right? So what happened? Lex Luger got the title shot first, May 1994, the Wrestler Aftershocks. This is about the Royal Rumble, though. Lex and Brett at the bottom there showing they won. But yes, Lex ended up getting the title shot first, and he ended up losing to Yokozuna, and Brett took the title. Inside Wrestling, May 94, Lex Luger, Bret Hart, the greatest triumphs, the greatest tragedies. Sports Review Wrestling in 1994, can Lex Luger, the Lex Express is out of gas, can Luger refuel on diesel? So here we go now. Lex Luger is out of the title picture. Bret Hart's the champ now, and Bret Hart's feuding with Owen. Lex Luger now, not in any title picture, but Diesel's the new Intercontinental Champion. He beat Razor Ramon just like a month after WrestleMania 10. So can Lex win that? Unfortunately not. He couldn't. Fall 94, Wrestle America. Why Luger doesn't care about the WWF title anymore, but there he is with that belt. He actually did hold that title around his waist and such. They kind of did it at a Superstars taping. My guess is it was Vince's way of either A, seeing if the fans would take to Lex being champion, or B, maybe he was going to put the belt on Lex, so any video footage afterwards would show Lex with the title. So I still don't know if Vince really knew what he was going to do just days going into WrestleMania 10. Winter 94 for Wrestling Superstars. We see the total package, Lex Luger on the cover there. It says, Lex Luger, find some title shots. Well, he would end up doing that in a tag team with the British Bulldog as the Allied Powers in 1995. May 95 for the WWF magazine, we get Talk About a Dream Team. Lex and Air Jordan join forces for a worthy cause. But Lex Luger would leave the WWF after him and Bulldog couldn't win the tag titles from Owen Hart and Yokozuna at In Your House 2, which was in July of 95. Lex was kind of there, they were breaking up the Allied Powers. Lex, his last appearance, I believe, was at SummerSlam when he did a run-in during the Diesel Mabel match and got made to look like a fool there. So no wonder Lex left, right? Lex left days later, would show up in World Championship Wrestling on the very first Nitro, and he wanted to make one thing clear. He wanted Hulk Hogan. Wrestle America, Winter 95, Luger's message to WCW, leave me alone. All I want is the belt. The Wrestler, February 96. No more Lex excuses. The time to win the title is now. So even the wrestling magazines are getting fed up with Luger. I mean, you were built up to be this big star in the 80s. You're the future. You're supposed to be the wrestler of the 90s. Where is your world title or world titles? You've had one. And that's it so far. Wrestling Superstars, Spring 96. Luger's rack is back. Hogan tasted death in my arms. Lex Luger now a villain, a bad guy in WCW, a part of the Dungeon of Doom, but still remained a friendship with Sting. April 96 of The Wrestler, can't we all just get along? Lex Luger, I come first. Sting, Luger's my friend, deal with it. Hulk Hogan, how can I trust anyone? Randy Savage, they're all jealous. Inside Wrestling, June 1996, Luger or Hogan, if Sting makes the wrong choice, he's through. While Sting chose Lex Luger, they became WCW World Tag Team Champions in 1996. At the same time, Lex Luger was also WCW World Television Champion. So Lex, 2 titles at one time, kind of made up for those 3 years or so of no titles in the WWF. Inside Wrestling, October 96, the WCW mid-year report, it says, Lex, don't trust him. So no one still is sure of Lex Luger if you can trust this guy or not. Inside Wrestling, June 1997, the inner turmoil that's tearing Lex Luger apart. It's got Arn Anderson there in the torture rack. The Wrestler, November 1997, 10-year grudge, Lex Luger's career ruined by J.J. Dillon. So Lex Luger is now a good guy again in World Championship Wrestling. And this is the example of when he won the world title, and this is how they show it off. The Wrestler, Holiday 97, first Owen, then Taker, then Hogan. Who's going to go next? So that's how they show off Lex Luger winning the WCW world title. They didn't put him on a magazine cover holding the belt. It was a huge deal that the NWO had the world title for pretty much almost a year. It was like close to the 1 year anniversary that Hogan defeated the Giant at Road Wild or Hog Wild 96, whatever it was called, in Sturgis, North Dakota at the biker rally. And Hogan went through them all. He went through Macho Man. He went through Piper. He went through well, I guess that was it. That was his main. And okay, he went through the Giant again. So he had all these challenges on pay-per-views. He had tag matches. And then he has this Nitro. I think it was the 100th edition of Nitro or something like that. It was kind of like an anniversary thing. And they had Hollywood Hogan defend the WCW title against the Total Package Lex Luger. Lex won the WCW World title, putting Hogan in a torture rack. Hogan gave up. The WCW locker room celebrated like crazy. The fans went nuts. And there was no magazine cover footage of it. It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. The Wrestler, January 98. Lex Luger's plea to Sting. Read this story. Your career depends on it. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, 1997, the year in wrestling. This is March 1998. Lex has an award there. He won Wrestler of the Year. Lex Luger winning Wrestler of the Year. That's a huge, huge deal for Lex. That's awesome. He won that. Of course, why not? He was World Tag Team Champion with the Giant in 1997. He was World Heavyweight Champion, defeating Hogan. So he had a good year. Last but not least, October 98, the WCW Mid-Year Report. Lex Luger seeing red and black, meaning he's a part of the Wolfpack NWO. And that's it for Lex on the magazine covers. He ended up getting injured in 1998. And came out on the January 4th edition of Nitro and helped with the whole finger poke of doom and reforming like the original NWO kind of, but Lex was a part of that. There was no longer Wolfpack. Lex was now with Hollywood Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, Buff Bagwell, and all that, whatever that NWO was at the time. Luger was a part of it. And then he kind of like dwindled, right? Lex ended up becoming, he changed his name in later of 1999 to just the Total Package. He was no longer Lex Luger. He was a Total Package. He wore like track pants and a track tank top shirt and had like the device to flex with and all that. He was managed by Miss Elizabeth. He was a heel. He didn't really do much. Going into 2000, him and Ric Flair teamed up a bit, went for the tag titles against Buff Bagwell and Shane Douglas, did not win them. Then they were baby faces at the time. That was during the New Blood versus the Millionaire Club storyline in WCW. Then Lex would end up going heel again, tagging with Buff Bagwell to be called Totally Buff. They were part of the Magnificent Seven group, which also was Ric Flair, Road Warrior Animal, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, Jeff Jarrett, that weird stable in WCW in late 2000, early 2001. And Lex and Bagwell were known for that really quick match against, I believe it was Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Hare at a pay-per-view for the tag team titles, where they just got destroyed and they laid in the ring looking like idiots. So that was the end of Lex. What a man. Like when you think back to 1997 with Lex Luger, and then you think what happened in like 2000 and 2001, it's like night and day. It's insane. But Lex Luger was one of my favorite wrestlers, and he's still a favorite person. He doesn't wrestle anymore, but I'm still a fan of Lex Luger. I'm so happy when I see him do these interviews, and he seems so genuinely happy now. He just loves interacting with the fans at these conventions. And I think Lex does that because he knows he missed out on all that back in the day. He knows that he wasn't a very good person, with his personality and his connection with fans back then. He was a little bit of an egotistical person. Even he'll agree with that. He said it, but now he he's just all about the fans. He loves it. He loves meeting them, loves interacting with them. I think that's very cool. I think Lex Luger turned his life around, and it may be because of the situation he's in. Like, he can kind of walk, but he can't walk too well. So that's why he's in a wheelchair a lot of the times. But that guy deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. He deserves to be a headliner. He deserves to get up and walk that stage. He said he would walk that. He'd get up out of his wheelchair and walk to the podium up if he got into the Hall of Fame. So here's hoping next year, Triple H, that you put Lex Luger into the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, he's working as a WWE ambassador for your company. Put him in that Hall of Fame while he's still alive and well, and the fans can see him and hear his speech. And have Sting induct the guy. Sting's no longer a part of AEW, so have the Stinger induct Lex Luger and make it a perfect storybook ending for the total package. The narcissist, the all-American, the real American, Lex Luger. All right, everyone, tell me if you were a Lex Luger fan. Did you enjoy any of Luger's matches? I always loved his matches with Ric Flair, with Barry Windham, with Sting. They were always entertaining, always good. Even him and Hogan had good chemistry, as weird as that is, because Hogan is Hogan. But, I loved their matches, too. And, of course, in the WWF, Luger always had some good stuff. Him and Yokozuna, I mean, anytime they got in the ring together, it was a big deal. And I also liked Lex Luger versus Tatanka at King of the Ring 93. It went to a 15-minute draw in the opening round, but man, that was a really good match as well. But yeah, Lex Luger, always one of my favorites, and if he's one of your favorites, let me know in the comments. And hopefully you enjoyed this video on the total package Lex Luger. And until I do my next one, I'll talk to you guys later.